The next one, I feel so that I can heal. This is one of my favorite ones. So as the teacher, you really embody being comfortable with feeling all your feelings. All of them, right? So not just certain ones, but the whole bunch of them. And getting it that you can, that feelings aren't going to hurt you. And so for our class, this lecture is actually right on track on emotion regulation, right? So what is that? And that's this principle gets us right into the next 4, which are all emotion regulation. So what happens is, and the children's principle is very nice here, it's okay to feel my feelings. It's okay to feel my feelings. And some of these I almost like the kids one better, right? Because we're like, when we're talking about our own feelings, we kind of feel like that, like children in our own lives. So get a sense of what it is and what it is not. So difficult experiences in our lives are often matched with difficult feelings, right? Like when I in high school, it's kind of cliche, but one of the hardest experiences of my life was when I found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me. And I really thought we were going to college together. I really thought we were going to get married. I thought all of that. Like my parents dated since 6th grade. My brother dated his girlfriend since 8th grade, who's now his wife. And they've been married many, many years. I don't even know how many. Like they're over 20 years married. My parents from 6th grade to 50 years married, right? So I just thought you married your high school boyfriend. But I didn't know like that he had another plan. And I was so physically hurt, I shook. Like I didn't even know what that was. The only time I've really had that happen to me since then was right after I had each of my daughters, and it was actually, the doctor told me then when I had Chloe, and I was shaking, I'm like, what's happening to me? He's like, you're in shock. So I then knew that after I found out my boyfriend cheated on me, that I was actually in shock, that I was like shaking. I was so just completely caught off guard and didn't know, and it was awful. So that difficult experience was associated with really difficult emotions like betrayal, hurt. I think I was mad somewhere in there, but that took a while. Once that came, I held that mad for a long time. A long time, right? But all those emotions, and those are hard to feel. And it's funny, for a class I had to draw a timeline of my life, and I remember just leaving out that whole section. I'm like, what happened right there? But I had pretty much just checked out of that whole memory system because it hurts so badly, right? In order for me to really grow in my life, I had to get competent with those emotions, right? I had to feel those emotions so that I could heal through them. There's no just skipping over that part, right? Letting them move through me. The other thing that's important here is there are no bad feelings. There are feelings that are uncomfortable and difficult, but they are not bad. That your feeling system is actually a notification system. So like my hands have nerves in them. So if I put my hand over a flame, right, it would be hot, too hot, right? It could burn me, and I would withdraw my hand quickly because my nervous system told me that's too hot, you're going to get hurt. So your feelings work like that. They kind of give you information about things like relationships, situations. They help you make decisions. So if I said, let's say I told my nervous system, I don't like the feeling of hurt on my hand, so I'm not going to feel that, I would just be holding my hand over a fire. It's similar with feelings. You can't just not feel that. You cannot feel them, but you'll be standing in fire and not understand. You're not going to, like, why do I keep being burned? Because you're not using all of the information your feelings are trying to give you. So they're huge. You say, I don't want to feel jealousy. I didn't want to feel jealousy. I didn't, and I should have been. I was a cool girlfriend who never got jealous. But in fact, jealousy is a boundary information, right? Being jealous all the time and insecure, that's not good for a relationship, right? I can't put that on my next boyfriend. Because one boyfriend, but at that particular boyfriend, I should have been a little more like, what's going on? Because there were signs, but I was trying to be a cool girlfriend and not, but I was getting good information, actionable information. that I could have said, I don't like what's going on. This relationship doesn't feel safe to me emotionally. I'm out, right? But I ignored information until I ended up like hurting more because I didn't self-care. Does that make sense? So you need all of the feelings. Jealousy is not a bad. Like anything, an emotion isn't bad. It's the actions that we choose, right? Anger is not bad, but if you get mad and then hit people, that's not good, right? Hitting people is illegal, actually. It's called assault, right? You can't do that. But anger is fine, and anger will tell you what's important to you. Like, that makes me mad. That means it's important. And when it's important, you don't want to act on emotion only. Remember, it's all three: thinking, heart, gut. So if you're just going on this and you're not thinking, you're not using your gut, wait, breathe, get into your body, feel, and then make a choice, right? So it's like a whole system that works together, and we need this part. Does that make sense? So we want our yoga students to be feeling. If the pose is hard and they're feeling a lot, breathe through it. Let it move through you. Like, listen to that. What's that mean for you? Like really cueing them to feel it. So our well-being comes from feeling all this stuff. Oh, there's another part that, let's say I decide to check out of a whole bunch of feelings because I've been hurt, traumatized. Our body does this interesting thing is that it tends to constrict all of our feelings. So if I decide I'm not going to feel pain or betrayal or abandonment, all of that, a lot of times, you know what also goes is joy, connection, love. So we get restricted in our emotional state. So you can see people emotionally completely shut down because they're trying to avoid the negative, right? But then we lose the other. So you want the breadth of all of them. You want your whole emotional range, and that means you have to get really competent on the ones that are uncomfortable. And when you get competent with them, the joy can come in easier, the love. What's the opposite of love? It's fear. The opposite of love is fear. And so if I'm going to hold on to my fear of being hurt again, which I was for a long time, right? Why not? It hurt. I didn't want to feel that again. I then wasn't available for love, right? That took me a while. So I would tend to date people that weren't capable either, and it worked for a while, but that wasn't going to go anywhere meaningful or create a beautiful family like I have now, right? So once I got capable, I then was capable of real love and could generate a loving family and loving children and, right, love for my work. But coming from fear, that was all shut down. With fear, there's no joy. It's all flat, right? Does that make sense? So you want it all. So when we shut them down, we shut down. And you can see people that are shut down. It's not fun in there. It's part of that getting your really small comfort zone. So we want to feel so that we can heal. Am I like physical? Is this one right? I don't know why. Okay. So when we teach, we can do things like great poses. So if anybody's been in my classes where I'm doing feeling stuff, I do a lot of opening. So physically, when you're afraid, you close down like this. And I've talked about this in class before. You shut down, you close the hips, you close here. This is safer way down here. Then this is not as safe. Right? It's totally vulnerable. Go ahead, world, right? But this is also the place where they've even, I heard a study on NPR, National Public Radio, they were talking about a study where if your profile picture for a dating site is open, you'll automatically get more hits on your dating site. The people with a closed posture tend not to get as many, because it's more loving and open. And people are like, oh, that person's accessible. That person looks interesting, and they don't. We're like wired to cue into these bodies. So this is open. So there are a lot of poses like this: camel on your knees, and you're going back and open. Warrior one, where you pull in, you can open like this, right? Even Tadasana or mountain pose, standing really open, just getting people open. So when I'm working on feeling, I want to open here. I want to open here. these places where we close when we're afraid. We also close them when we're mad. So if I'm going to hit, right, or if I'm going to run, I'm here. So this kind of opening gets us to be in the positive emotion set of acceptance, love, openness. And for someone who's been hurt, that's scary. Like I used to get really anxious in camel pose, right? And so it took me probably years, easily years, to be able to be in camel and not start like sweating, and it didn't matter the temperature of the room, just because it was so open and felt so vulnerable. So really working on my breath while I'm in a chest opening pose, right? So you can work people through poses so that they can practice feeling so that they can heal. And then that's your really getting them there. And you lay on that, you say the words, like let yourself feel so you can heal. Breathe, get back into your body, work toward presence in your body. What? You're worth the effort. Try. So you go right back up through the other principles. Does that make sense? So you use them all, even if you're working on this one. So mindful thinking, this part is Soften, Soothe, Allow by Kristen Neff, and it's perfect here. The link's there, but essentially this practice is locating where, like even right now you could locate where is there an emotion in your body. So I tend to I'll hold here, a lot of times here, right? And you can kind of find your core is a place where we kind of hold a lot of emotion. And feeling where it is, locating it, and let's say you're feeling something in the pit of your belly. And then noticing the tension around it, breathing there, and then as if there was, those above ground swimming pools, and you can just take the side and let it down so the water pours out, right? When you were little and you blew up the plastic one and then your sister or brother sat on the edge and all the water went out, and you're like, you're letting all the water out. But you want to do this here. So kind of letting down the sides so the emotion can spill out a little. And just softening around the edge of the emotion, breathing there, and just watching it soften and dissipate. That you don't need to contain it in a military zone, right? And hold it. That the emotion really does need to kind of soften and move through you. And she does a beautiful job, and this is available online, free. And just Kristen Neff and the Soften, Soothe, Allow, or go to that link for an example of a great, I have my patients in private practice that. I have probably at least 5 of them that's part of their active goals right now, is to do that meditation when they feel overwhelmed by a feeling. And then informal, just noticing when you're feeling, letting yourself feeling, and when you're not letting yourself feeling. And there's times when it's okay, right now, I don't want to feel everything, right? There's a few things going on, all my friends are at a big yoga conference thing that I'm not at. So I'm I could be distracted and feeling that. That wouldn't be a good idea. My kids are playing the lacrosse game start at 7:30 right now. And that would, so there's certain times when you're not always feeling, right? So it's a practice of managing your emotions, emotion regulation, and knowing that there are times when I can, in a yoga class, perfectly appropriate and okay to let myself feel. Leave it on the mat, right? Good. So inquiry, asking yourself about the comfort zones and the safety zones, and knowing that what we do a lot of times, we have our comfort zone and we get uncomfortable and then we're shut it down. Shut it down, you're feeling. So oh, I got uncomfortable. I'm starting to feel that feeling, and just allowing, and maybe step a little bit closer to the comfort zone. Just in yoga, we call it a winnable gap. Just enough, far enough away from where you are that it feels safe and manageable. And you gradually stretch your comfort zone, right? So maybe it's a feeling you haven't felt in a while. You don't have to feel it for an hour. Let yourself feel it for 30 seconds. And then check back out if you want, right? But you just practiced increasing your tolerance, breathing, getting present, maybe holding a friend's hand while you're letting yourself feel something, right? I knew someone once who had lost someone, and looking at their picture was really hard because they were gone now, they died. So it was like getting up to really being able to look at the picture, right, and taking time. So, and doing it in tiny little exposures, right, with support. So looking at the picture with your best friend, right, holding hands, breathing, crying, and then, okay, we're done, and we'll do that in like a month, okay, right? And then in a month, practicing. So the idea is kind of letting it happen as you're ready, and now you're in control of it. And the goal really is to start feeling again, right, to get us back there. So assistant support is honoring that it's hard for some of us to feel, especially if we've been through some hard stuff, right? And then honoring that they all could have different reactions. When we did our workshop on assisting and supporting, someone had to leave the room, and we gave permission at the beginning. Like if you're feeling overwhelmed, like we gave a space where people could go to leave and come back. And she left, and she's like, she emailed later, I really was afraid I was going to leave altogether. She goes, but I pulled myself together and I came back in, and it was really great. You gave me permission to leave and come back so that I could on my own challenge myself to come back, right? So giving that space. So how we're going to handle each and everyone's emotional needs. When you've gone through trauma, it can actually feel as if it's reoccurring right now, right? In the moment, that's like that flashback or re-experiencing. So we have to understand it's not that the person, you can say they're overreacting, they're literally reacting to something they feel like is happening. And that's where the support comes in, like having a cue for someone to ask for help. They can go to child's pose, and then you might even say, like, what would support you right now? How could I help you right now? Sometimes just being by someone is help enough. Breathing with someone is help enough. So really having communication about how you can best support them. But knowing that that's, so in a typical yoga class with like typical people, maybe we might want to really push somebody through plank or something, like you've got this, you've got this. But if you know you're working with a traumatized population, and truth be told, even in a regular yoga class, a lot of people have been through trauma, that we kind of want to have a sense of what's going on with that person and back off if you're really getting a gut feeling like they need some space, right? And you can check in with them later. How was that for you? I noticed something was going on for you there. Is everything okay, right? So it doesn't even have to be in real time all the time. I've given people tips for their yoga on the way out the door. Like, I noticed when you were in triangle that, right? And they're like, oh my gosh. And it's funny, I gave somebody a triangle tip and talking about her breathing and what she was doing. It was like a month later. She goes, you know, I've been thinking about that like for a month. That was so great. Right? So even if you miss the real time or the real time doesn't feel like the time to connect, you can connect later and say, you know, I'm wondering, and could this be true, and could we do this?